Цукерберга, основателя крупнейшей в мире социальной сети Facebook, которой пользуются более 950 миллионов человек ежедневно. Из них 500 миллионов человек пользуются этой сетью благодаря своим мобильным устройствам. Но я буду рада представить вам также Михаила Лялина, который присутствует здесь. Он основатель компании The Top Lab и создатель игры Cut the Rope. Вы знаете, Марк — это человек, у которого, видимо, нет иерархических структур. Mark is not very much fond of hierarchical structures, so his lecture will be also in a very democratic manner. He will be talking with Mikhail Lялин, and now they start. Welcome, welcome to Moscow State University.
Awesome. Mark, welcome to Moscow. Welcome to Moscow State. Welcome to my hometown, my home country. This is for you.
Thank you.
So the first question, why here?
So this is actually my first time in Russia ever, and my first time in Moscow. I'm here for just a few days, and you know, I don't spend a lot of time traveling. I spend almost all my time back in Palo Alto building our products and working with our product teams. But you know, maybe once a year or so, I'll go visit some country which is particularly important in the world for our mission of trying to make the whole world open and connected. And you know, it's been awesome so far. I've gotten a chance to see a lot of different parts of the city and talk to a bunch of different folks. And it's really an honor to be invited to come here to this university. Students, in a lot of ways, are kind of the core of Facebook. And you know, I don't know how much you guys know about the history of how we got started as this college service, but you know, back in the very beginning of Facebook, when I was in college, I made the original service just because I wanted to be able to stay connected, know what was going on more with the people around me at my school. So, and since then, you know, as we spread from country to country, the university students and younger folks have been the first to adopt Facebook all along the way. So a lot of what I wanted to do here is get a chance to talk to some students, talk to some engineers and developers. We did a hackathon event, and you know, just kind of get a sense of what's going on over here. But it's been an awesome visit so far.
Sounds good, sounds good. And look, because we're going to have questions after this, I'm going to proceed some of them from the audience. Obviously, most of the people here have probably seen the movie. You know. So, instead of seeing the movie, tell us the history, tell us how you see it.
Yeah, I mean, the movie wasn't really true. So, you know, so I don't really know where to start besides that. I mean, I guess the real story here is that when I was growing up, even before I got started actually working on Facebook and building it, you know, I remember I had the internet when I was in elementary school and middle school, and I remember I had access to Google, first search engine, when I was in middle school, and it was this really interesting moment for me because it's like for the first time you can get access to all this different information that you want to have, and it just seemed amazing, right? I mean, no other generation before ours could have access to that much information. It just seemed like this totally different thing. But as time went on, what I kind of realized was that, you know, being able to look up information is cool and is really useful. But what I really cared about and what the people around me really cared about was knowing what was going on with the people in their lives, right? I mean, we as people are so hardwired to want to be connected to the people around us, and we process the world through other people, and you know, so many different parts of the brain are like just purely developed to kind of be able to read people and process emotions and process language to communicate with people and things like that. There was nothing like that was out there on the internet, and you couldn't use a search engine to be able to find out what was going on with the people around you, because what was going on with the people around you wasn't just out. No one had shared that. It wasn't on the internet. indexed, ready to be found in a search engine. So someone had to build the tools in order to make it so that people could start sharing stuff, and then also help people make sense of all the information that was out there, and make it so that you could get a news feed or a newspaper of the content that your friends had online and the stuff that you cared about. So I kind of got started building it just as a small college thing when I was in college, and the goal back then was not to build this big worldwide company or anything like that. But just to make something that I wanted to use with the people around me. And I was really passionate about it, and I wanted this thing to exist. And the first thing didn't have some huge grand plan. I just, I kind of hacked the first version together in a couple of weeks, because I just wanted to throw it out there and see what happened. And then over time, people from different schools wrote into us asking to have it. So we spent time, me and my roommates at the time, just kind of opening Facebook up at different schools, and then eventually different schools across the world, and then allowing anyone to sign up after a couple of years. We just kind of kept on building the next thing until we now have this network where over 900 million people around the world are actively using it. More than 500 million people use it every day, and it's just really this huge kind of honor to be able to build products that many people use, and that's kind of how we got here.
Well, it's very interesting, and obviously, thank you for doing that. But you made it sound so simple. You had this idea, right? In middle school, you used the internet, you looked what was wrong with the internet, you had an idea. Off you go, you have 900-something million people, right? There must be a lot in between. Tell us how that was happening. What kind of decisions were you making? Like big ones, founders,
Well, are you talking about after I got started?
After you started.
I don't know. I mean, there's so many different things along the way. I think the biggest thing that I think that we needed to do was just kind of stay focused on building this awesome experience, right? And there were all these different things that we could have done, and early on, a lot of people thought that we should sell the company because we could make a lot of money, or spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to make a lot of money early on. But we just really believed that this was something that a lot of people around the world could benefit from and want to use. And at each point along the way, we just kind of focused on who are the next set of people, at the next university or the next country that we could open this up to. What products that make sense to build next. We've always kind of been on the edge of trying to build new social products, and around the world, different folks have had their products either kind of copied or inspired by some of the stuff that we've done, and that's cool. But we've always wanted to kind of be on the edge of just kind of focused on building new things. So I don't know. I mean, a lot of this just comes down to focus and not getting distracted by all the things that are going on around you. But that I think is probably the most important thing.
So when you focus on something, you gotta nail it down. Right? You gotta say, I'm focusing on that. So what is it Facebook focused on?
I mean, there are really two things that we do primarily. I mean, one is, if you go back to what I was saying before, where before on the internet there just wasn't the content that you cared the most about, which is what's going on with the people you care about and the ability to connect with them. There are really two sides to what we built. One are tools for people to share anything that they want with anyone who they want. And then the other side are tools for basically being able to see what's going on with those set of people. So for the first set of things, it's things like being able to share photos or status updates or location, and being able to say, no matter who you want to share them with, I just want to share these with my family, so I'm only going to share it with 6 people, or I want to share it with all my friends, so that's cool. I want to share, that I'm in Moscow with all my friends. Or, sometimes people want to use these tools to reach, a ton of people around the world. So, I mean, you can also use these tools to share with, millions of people at a time. So being able to share whatever you want with exactly the audience that you want is a really important kind of principle of what we're building, and there are a lot of tools that kind of go towards that. Then on the other side, with all the information that's in the system, I mean, people are sharing, billions of pieces of content a day. The biggest question is, what are the right things to show a person, right? So when you sign into Facebook, you have, on average, 100 to 200 friends. Those friends have probably shared a few hundred things that day. A big question for us is, what are the most interesting things that that are happening in your network that we can choose to share? we can choose to show it at the top of newsfeed, so you can most effectively see what's going on with the people around you. So we invest a lot of time in building up those two sets of things.
So when you focus on that type of mission to make the world essentially connected, you said so in your IPO filings, this is the most important thing to you. How do you then take, because I'll step back, I mean, mission and the kind of things you're talking about, we don't get that very often. I mean, we don't get people to talk about how we're building great things. So when you talk about this, how do you then take it and make it a company culture that goes and executes on that vision?
I think a lot of it is just about getting people around you who really believe in the same things that you do, no matter what the things are, right? So for us, I think we're a little different as a company because we are so focused on this social mission. I mean, we kind of come to work every day and we are really focused on just this idea that we want to empower people to share more things. We want to empower people to stay connected to more people than previously was possible. And in order to do that, we need to build an awesome company. We need to hire really great people, and we need to make a lot of money to power the company and all that. But for us, really, the mission and kind of this vision of a world where everyone in the world, billions of people, can share what they want and stay connected to all the people that they want. That's the thing that gets us really excited. And along the way, I mean, we've just had different people join the company who are really either into that, or some people aren't into it, and the people who aren't into it leave, and then we attract more people who are really excited about that, and that's just kind of how we've gone about building the culture.
It's a process, certainly. So that mission, that focus that you guys have, and moving around the world and getting all the possible users to use Facebook, almost 1 billion of them now. The few places in the world obviously where you don't succeed. Some of them just don't let you. And here we have competitors. So, working in the environment where the competitors enjoy a certain clever content distribution model, should I say, how would you compete with that?
Well, it's a little different in every country. So we started in the US, obviously, and since then, there were a lot of countries that didn't have any competitors, and that, Facebook quickly just grew. Although there were other kind of general social networks, even in the US before. There were things like MySpace, and then there were specific countries that either had kind of clones of Facebook, services that were really modeled after it. So Germany was one. I think there are a couple here that are similar to that. And then there were a bunch of countries where there were just different services too that we were competing with. And it's interesting because people really want to use the service that their friends are on, right? So there's this inertia where if all your friends are using one service, then your kind of gut reaction is going to be to kind of go to that service and stick with that. But over time, people really do switch to a better service. I mean, one thing that's easy to forget is that even in the US, when we were getting started, MySpace already had 100 million users, and I remember this moment where we had around 10 million users, primarily in universities, and MySpace had around 100 million, and a bunch of companies wanted to buy Facebook, and a lot of the people on our board thought that we should sell because they're like, well, MySpace is 100 million, how are you ever going to beat them? And it just turns out, if you focus on building great products and you build something that's better, then it won't happen overnight, but I think people do over time want to use the best product, even if all their friends are currently on one thing. And that's kind of been the story in a lot of other countries too. So take Germany, for example. There was this site that was pretty much an exact clone of Facebook. And they, all the university students in Germany use this one site, and it took a while for Facebook to grow there. But eventually, I mean, people want to use the service where they can connect to everyone who they know, not just people in one country. And they want to use the best service. And if we're kind of always out trying to build new features, and a lot of these other services are just kind of trying to copy those and are like lagging a bit behind what the features are, then I think over time, if we can offer the best service, then people will move over. And we've seen that in a lot of different countries. But what it really comes down to is we need to keep on being focused on building the best thing. And I think if we do that, we'll win in all these different countries.
You're here partially because of World Cup. Tell us a little bit about that. Your developers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so a big part of what we do is we have this developer platform, right? So a big part of our vision is that, you know, social networking isn't something that you go to one app to do, right? I mean, it's in the past, you know, it's been something where it's like, okay, well, I want to share something with my friend, I'll go to Facebook or I'll go to another social network. In the future, I don't think it's quite going to be like that. I still think that there are going to be these basic social platforms, but more and more what we're finding is that there are all these different apps that people use on computers or phones, and more of them are socially integrated, right? So if you look at Apple's App Store, for example, if you look at the top 400 apps, more than half of them are already integrated with Facebook, right? So it gives you the sense that, you know, no matter what type of app you want to use, whether it's a game or a music app or some kind of marketplace where you want to know the people who you're buying from, or an education software app where you want to be able to share stuff and collaborate with your friends, there are all these different use cases and different things where you just want to be able to share with your friends, and you want these apps to know who your friends are. And that's just a big part of what Facebook is. When you're using Facebook, you're not just using Facebook, you're also using whatever apps you want that plug into that. And in order to build those apps, and we're not building all those ourselves, it's developers all around the world doing it. And you know, there are a lot of folks in Europe who have built really substantial companies, especially around gaming. And so one of the things that I wanted to do when I was here is just sit down with a bunch of the developers and see what they're building, and kind of let them know what we're focused on building, and kind of what tools we have that they should be plugged into.
So obviously this is this is the number one university in Russia, and it's a probably a very elite group that will start a lot of businesses, probably run a lot of businesses as well. All of those businesses will have to do well. That's where we are. We're already there, and we're going to be there. What would you tell the audience why they should care about Facebook when they think about the next business?
Well, I mean, whether it's mobile or not, I mean, I think there's this opportunity now with these new technology platforms. Mobile phones are one, I think social networks is another important one, to just reimagine almost any kind of product category that you can think of, right? So, I mean, music, is an interesting example where, you know, you want to be able to discover more music than the radio will play for you, because I mean, they'll just play the same, 40 or 50 songs over and over again. And so one great way to discover music is, you can kind of follow people who have good musical taste, or you want to see what your friends are listening to, and that's interesting. So there are companies like Spotify is this example, this Swedish company, where they have this new model where basically you sign in with Facebook, and then you have your friends there, and you can see what your friends are listening to, and you discover just a ton of more music. And that's an example of how their basic model is, because you're discovering so much more music through your friends, you then buy more, or you are more likely to become a subscriber, so they can make more money and build a better business than any other music company or product that's out there. So it's really disruptive, right? Games have been another one where, traditionally, in order to get 10 or 20 million people to play a game, it's just been a huge amount of marketing work that you have to put in, and very few games have achieved that. But through Facebook, you basically have this dynamic where someone's playing a game, they can easily share with their friends and pull their friends into the game, and there are many games that have reached tens of millions of users, so that's also really disruptive to that industry. So now, I think that basically every industry, I think in the next 5 or 10 years, is going to get really rethought to be mobile and social, and especially now, in the last version of iOS that Apple just shipped, they did this great Facebook integration, so now more easily than ever, you can just have your app be plugged into Facebook. I don't know. I mean, I think most apps that are succeeding on these platforms are already social and plugged into Facebook, and I think that that's just going to be an accelerating trend because people want to do stuff with their friends.
Makes perfect sense. You mentioned one, I think at TechCrunch before. You said that you still have more mobile web usage than you get from apps on Android and iOS combined. Is it because people, when they get those smartphones, they switch to another apps? They use things like Instagram, Flipboard. Even though they'll connect to Facebook, they still don't get so much attention from them anymore.
The numbers that we have don't reflect that. So I mean, what we basically have seen is, on mobile, it's definitely true that people use more things, right? So on desktop, one of the big problems with the web in general is it's really just hard to discover new apps, right? I mean, you have search engines, which are great for finding something when you are looking for a specific thing, and you can discover things socially through Facebook and other social networks. But there's no kind of app store or catalog where you can go to see like all the stuff that there is on the web, right? And but on mobile, Apple and Google have done a good job of that with their platforms. So people generally install a lot more stuff to their phones, and that's awesome. Now, on all of these platforms, iOS, Android, and mobile web, Facebook is basically by far the most used app, right? So I mean, on iPhone, I think it's like more than 80% of iPhones have Facebook installed on them. Android, I think it's a similar number. Both platforms have told us that we're just like by far the most installed and most used apps. So I think it's also true that that people are using more apps in addition, and those apps tend to also be plugged into Facebook. But Facebook usage is actually increasing on those. And a big part of this, I mean, you have the phone with you all the time, so you can, so now whenever you want to share something, it's like, you can just take a picture of it right there and upload it, and that's awesome.
When you say, well, first of all, I mean, I thought that the most widely used app on the phones was App Store, Google Play, respectively, because that's what people use when they find their applications. And I agree with you, it's almost impossible to find things on huge web. It's almost impossible to find things on App Store now. It's difficult. There's 600,000 applications, 700,000 applications. So you want to replace App Store, right?
I mean, no. I mean, on Apple you can't, right? I mean, that's like a core part of their operating system is they have this App Store, and I mean, they don't want anyone else to replace it, so we can't even if we wanted to, which we don't. But I mean, we have a different model, right? I mean, the App Store that Apple has is kind of the definitive place where you go to look up an app and download the app. But the thing that we can do that almost no one else can do is tell you what apps your friends are using if they want to share that. And that's really cool, right? Because a lot of times the way that we all discover stuff in the real world is someone will show you something on their phone. They'll like come over to you and say, hey, like, check out this app, it's pretty neat. So if you could have a version of that that's digital where you can just look at, okay, well, here are all the apps that my friends are using, then I think that people would just end up exploring a lot more stuff than they would otherwise, naturally.
So the whole app economy, where apps, basically same applications have been around forever and ever, they get packaged nicely, put on the store, download on the phone. So eventually web will come in, right, on mobile devices? Is that how you see it, or is it going to be apps for foreseeable future?
Well, it's easy to forget that, not everyone has iPhones and these like really nice smartphones, right? So I mean, that's one of the things that I think is actually the most interesting right now is, in addition to being the most downloaded and used app on iPhone and Android, it's also, we have more mobile web usage than on those two platforms combined, and a lot of that is on lower end devices. So I think, I'm not actually sure what's going to happen on iOS and Android. I mean, Apple seems like they really want people to use apps, and I understand why, because I mean, you can just get such a better user experience by building something natively than through mobile web. But on a lower end phone, mobile web is definitely this lowest common denominator thing where anyone can build a website and people can download it. So it's a great way to build something that hundreds of millions of people can use on a ton of different devices.
It's interesting point. Well, I'm going to stop really and move here. Come back to our audience. It seems that a lot of rich and famous, when they become students, they say stay in school. What's your message? The ones that dropped out.
What's that? Yeah, I dropped out. I don't know if that's worth clapping for. No, I mean, I like school. I mean, it's obviously Facebook has been super interesting, and I obviously feel really lucky to have been able to play this role. But I mean, I was learning a lot in school, and I mean, one of the things that I wish is that when I were in school that I paid more attention, so I would have just learned more stuff. And I don't know, I don't know what the policy is here that you guys have around entrepreneurship and taking time off. But one of the interesting things for me was I actually, Harvard had this policy that you didn't have to. I never had to actually drop out. What I did was basically I took a term off to continue working on Facebook. I built Facebook, the first version when I was still a student, and then it just got to be too much to both maintain Facebook and take courses, so I decided to take a term off. And it just 6 months. And then, Facebook kept on growing, and there were more things that I wanted to do, so I was like, all right, I'll take another 6 months off, and then another 6 months, and then I just kind of never went back. But I mean, Harvard is nice about that, right? Because they never made me make this decision of, okay, you have to either drop out or commit to going to school. Because if I had to, from the beginning, decide to drop out in order to take one term off, I probably wouldn't have, right? Because I didn't know that Facebook was going to grow up to be this awesome thing. So I think that there are a lot of universities in the US that have these policies where you can take time off to explore stuff, and I think that's definitely worth doing. I don't know if you guys have a policy that's similar to that here, but if you do and you have some idea that you want to work on, then I think it's completely reasonable to try to take some time off to do that. But university is great because it's this one time in your life where you don't have to necessarily focus on and I see you have this job of getting good grades and learning in school, but you don't have to completely support yourself, right? I mean, it's there's a lot of stuff that's provided to you by a university. And you just get time to kind of talk to all of these people around you and explore ideas, and you generally have a lot more free time in university than when you have a job afterwards. So I definitely would not be rushing to leave. I think I really enjoyed the time that I had in school because that's where I kind of got to explore a lot of the ideas that kind of contributed to how I think about the world now.
So, have you dropped out before of anything?
What's up?
Have you stopped doing something you started doing before? Are you persistent?
I guess. I didn't drop out of school before that, I guess, by definition. I don't know, I mean, in terms of building stuff, for me, I never really, before Facebook, I never really wanted to make a company, right? So everything that I built, I was working on because it was something that I really wanted to exist in the world. And most of the things were things that I just wanted to use myself. And Facebook had this property that in order for it to be useful, I had to get all these other people to use it. But before that, I mean, most of the things that I built a music player for myself. I built a ton of different tools to do just different things for myself. And that was cool. And I just basically worked on those until I got bored, and then I worked on it, and then I went to the next thing. But for Facebook, I mean, there's a lifetime's worth of problems, and it's a really awesome thing. And in order to make Facebook useful for anyone, I had to build this thing that at least got everyone in my university at the very beginning to want to use it, and then kind of spread beyond that. And so I've had to learn all these things about building software and building products that other people use, and that you're not just building for yourself. But that's been pretty fun along the way.
You moved to Silicon Valley, and then you picked up from Boston, you moved to Silicon Valley, and you built a company that changed the world, right? It became something that is now part of it. There seems to be so many companies that actually do that come out of Silicon Valley. Is it a major place?
Yeah, a moment ago I was talking about how at university it's this pretty unique time because you have all these students around you, and you get access to so many different perspectives, and you have time to just kind of sit and talk to people, and that's really awesome. And Silicon Valley is kind of like that for engineering and technology, right? I mean, you generally have a job, but besides that, I mean, there's so much infrastructure there to build companies. There are all these great engineers and designers and investors who want to put money into good ideas, and if you want to start something, it's pretty easy to. So that part of it is really good. I mean, there are negative aspects of it too, and I think that the culture generally tries to. It has made entrepreneurship this kind of fashionable thing, where I don't think that making a company is cool, right? I mean, you should make a company because you want to build something and you want something to exist in the world, and you feel passionately about it, not because you think that having a company is cool. And Facebook was never really like that. I started it because it was something that I just wanted to exist, and then I moved out there initially before I even thought that it was going to be a company. I moved out there for the summer before choosing to take a term off from Harvard, and that was well before deciding to drop out. And at the time, I just kind of wanted to experience Silicon Valley and see what it was like there, because it seemed like all these interesting companies came from there. And it just turned out to be an awesome place. But again, at the time, I mean, I knew nothing about running a company, right? So having access to all these people with different perspectives and who had all this experience out there was really useful for me when I was getting started. I was 19. You know?
So you said several times before that Silicon Valley suffers from short-term perspective. People switch jobs very often in searching of higher salary or new hot thing startup. Actually, Musk is kind of that way a little bit. What's your advice to entrepreneurs that want to start a business here and build something that they truly passionately believe in?
Well, I think you kind of nailed it in the question. And I think that the key is that, you know, building anything good just takes so much time. You need to really just care about it and like want it to exist. And it like starting a company isn't a job, right? It's a life, right? And if that's what you want to do, I think that, you know, one thing that I see in Silicon Valley that always seems a little silly to me is people decide that they want to start a company before they know what they want to build. And to me, it really should go the other way around. I think you should have an idea of what you want to see happen in the world, and then a company is a vehicle or a tool to help do that. I mean, when I got started with Facebook, I didn't necessarily think that it had to be a company in the beginning. But then when I wanted to be able to hire more people besides me in order to work on more things at once, it became pretty clear that a company was better than the alternatives. Or I mean, it could have been a nonprofit, but then, you know, we wouldn't have been able to make any money, so we wouldn't have been able to pay the best people the most money in order to come. And, you know, really good people, I think, want to both do something that's going to change the world and be able to make a lot of money in the process. And I think that if you're starting a company, it needs to be something that you really believe in. And I think that's like really the first thing. And it's just, these things are hard and they take a long time. I mean, you know, one thing that's pretty crazy now is in the last year, 200 million people signed up for Facebook. And that's a huge amount, right, for 1 year. And it took us 5 years to get to the first 100 million, and it took us a whole year to get to the first million. So I mean, these things, I mean, they have this way of accelerating over time if you focus on them and build a really good foundation. But even that takes time. It takes a really long amount of time to get there.
Before we take questions from the audience, does Facebook work for fun?
Well, I mean, it's both. I mean, for me, you know, Facebook it's like this mission, right? It's this thing that I really care about seeing in the world, and that's the thing that drives me, is I really think that everyone should have a voice, and everyone should be able to share what they want, and should be able to stay connected to all the people that they want. And I don't know, if that's like the thing that I accomplish in my life, then I will be really happy with that. And you know, building a company isn't always fun, right? I mean, you should go into building a company because you think it's going to be the most enjoyable thing. Because it's like a lot of hard work, and you know, you go through these cycles where, you know, sometimes it's really fun and you're really winning and doing well, but the other half of the time you're really struggling with a lot of problems. And there are always problems, no matter what scale you are or how much success you have. And so I don't know. I mean, I think it definitely is. It's definitely fun. I really enjoy it. And I mean, it's like the only thing that I can imagine myself doing. But I don't think that you should start a company if what your primary goal is to have the most fun. I think you should start a company if you believe in something and you want to see it exist, and you're willing to go through all this pain and spend all this time to make it happen.
Thank you for your answer. Do you have a question?
How much time do you guys have?
A lot of them seem to do with, are you married? You can take it home. All right. Mark, hello. We're the champions. You guys are the champions of Russian champion of programming competition. And they came specifically from Yekaterinburg because you got here. And they know that if you come with a few people from their university work at Facebook, so when you come to Yekaterinburg,
I don't know. I'm only in Russia for a few days, and then I need to head back. But so not on this trip, but hopefully sometime in the next 2 years I'll get back. That's a very specific question. That doesn't.
Yes, it's a very specific question. A lot of Russians working on Facebook.
Yeah, there are definitely a bunch. And we have a very diverse company, and there are a lot of folks from all over the world. And one of the things that's interesting is that we have about 1,000 engineers in the company, and that's crazy if you think about it, because there's almost 1 billion users, and almost 1,000 engineers means that there's this ratio where one of the things that we talk about is that every engineer at Facebook is responsible for about 1 million users. But one of the other interesting things is that we're just building the basis of the social platform. There are all these apps that people use, and there are hundreds of thousands or millions of developers who are building apps, and those folks are building companies all over the world. So there are definitely folks from all over the world working at Facebook, but there are also folks all over the world building companies in their own countries that plug into Facebook, and that's really cool. And there are a lot of pretty meaningful companies, especially in games in Europe. There are two pretty big ones in the UK, Playfish and King.com, and Wooga in Berlin, and Spotify, which I mentioned before, is a music company that's based in Sweden. So there are a bunch of really meaningful, awesome developers of Facebook who are have companies that they're building all over the world.
What's your favorite movie?
That's an interesting question. Favorite book? No, I like reading. Looks like here's one recently. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is one of those questions that I get asked a lot, so I should just have an answer ready. But no, I don't know. I'm gonna pass.
All right. Great answer. All right. Here's the last one we have from making something up. We have a student from Faculty of Journalism asking if she doesn't have a Facebook account.
Well, why not?
Well, that's why she wants to understand why should she prefer Facebook to Google Plus or MySpace and other social networks.
Well, you should start using it. One of the cool things about social networks is that you don't have to choose just one, right? So it's not like you're buying a phone and you have to choose, okay, I'm either going to get an iPhone or an Android phone, and then that's it. You have to make this decision. One of the things that we have the benefit of, and users do too, is you can have an account on all of these services, and you can connect with your friends on all of them and just see which one you like the most, right? So if, we had this period where, I was talking about this before, how even in the US, when we were first growing, MySpace had 100 million users, and Facebook had 10 million users at the time. And that meant that, for the next kind of 90 million people who signed up until Facebook got to 100 million, most of those people had MySpace accounts and Facebook accounts. And then over time, what we found was just people who used the Facebook accounts liked it more and spent more time with it. And over time, they spent more and more time with Facebook because they enjoyed it more and found it more useful. And then they spent less and less time with MySpace, and then that just kind of faded out. So that's typically how Facebook has grown in most countries as well. I mean, I went through the German example before. There's this German site that was basically a copy of Facebook, and everyone was on it. And then what happened was people didn't just one day decide that they were going to quit and shut down their account and open up a Facebook account. What happened was people opened up a Facebook account to try it out and see how much they liked it. And over time, they just found it more and more useful. They started using it more, and then they started using the other one less. And then over time, it's just become less meaningful, and Facebook has become the social network that everyone uses in Germany. So I think that something similar is what I think might happen here, where it's not that one day everyone is going to choose to stop using other sites. I mean, people are going to use a lot of different sites, but what I hope is that people try out Facebook and enjoy it and get value from it. And if you do, then I think you'll find that over time you just spend more and more time using it.
That's all we got.
May I interrupt you for a moment, because we still missing the host of this meeting, and he is now here, director of the Moscow State University.
What do you think about our students, Mark? What do you think about our students? I'd like to give to you a small present from Moscow University.
Thank you. We got you a hoodie.
Дорогие студенты, дорогая аудитория, Виктор Антонович только что приехал из Липецка, где он провел успешно конкурс «Учитель года», а Марку, видимо, нужно улетать. Только что мы получили напоминание его пресс-службы о том, что самолет Марка уже готовится к взлету. He's seeming to leave now Moscow in Moscow University. Mark, we know you are quite late for your plane and it's just time for you to start. So,
Well, it would take us a little while to get through this whole stack of questions. But thank you guys for having me here. It's really been an honor to come visit and speak with you guys, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do it again next time I'm in Moscow.